Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the World of Drones and Robotics Congress. My name is Timothy Hamond, speaking on behalf of D1Store, and today we are going to give you an introduction to the DJI Matrice 300 series drone. Today we'll be looking at a quick setup of the drone, unfolding the propellers, the arms, inserting the batteries, turning the aircraft on, and then moving into more detail as to the functions of the drone, some of its special features such as using artificial intelligence spot check through waypoints, as well as running through the thermal camera, the zoom, and the laser rangefinder. It can come with two payloads, the H20 or the H20T series cameras, as well as the Zenmuse XT2 thermal camera and the Z30 zoom camera. When installing the legs of the drone, it's ensured that the red line is parallel to the other red line on the opposite side of the leg. When unfolding the arms, the back arm will move forward first and then the front arm will move back. Once this has been completed, it's imperative to ensure that the red line on the arm lines up with the red line on the body. Please take care that this is done properly each and every time. Once securely fastened, it's now time to insert the batteries. Please remove the battery insulated sticker as well as the battery connector cover located on the drone. Once the batteries have both been inserted, please remember to lock the batteries in. This can be simply done by turning the latch to the back of the aircraft clockwise. If this isn't done, the aircraft will know that the sensor isn't being locked in and the aircraft won't allow it to take off. Next, we'll grab the camera out of the case. Take the front cover off, and if it's brand new, ensure that you remove the yellow tag on the laser rangefinder. Line the white dot up with the red dot on the Skyport connector, and then gently rotate to the right. Please ensure that the gimbal payload is connected properly and can't rotate anti-clockwise. Otherwise, this can cause failure in the sky and the payload to be released from the drone. The next thing we'll do is turn on the remote controller by tapping and then holding, as well as tapping the top button on the drone and holding again. When the drone is starting up, please ensure that anything obstructing the gimbal is removed so that the payload can conduct its gimbal calibration for the first time. If all happy with the aircraft, please now go into the fly page. The first page that should prompt will be the checklist for the flight. This will have settings such as your compass calibration, IMU calibration, your return to home height, and various other settings. If you do need to conduct a compass calibration, please grab the aircraft by the 2 feet and rotate your body in a clockwise direction. You'll notice that if the calibration has been successful, the 2 lights at the back of the aircraft will flash green. Now you can hold the aircraft out vertically in front of you and perform another 360-degree turn. If everything on the checklist looks good, now is the time to launch the aircraft. Ensure a safe distance for the drone and then hold the 2 joysticks into the center. This will start the motors up and you're good to fly. Now the difference between the H20 and the H20T series cameras is the 13.5mm 640 by 512 resolution 30 Hz refresh rate thermal camera. The H is for hybrid. It's a multi-sensor payload that really does bring a new whole meaning to mission efficiency. Typically with the M200 or M210, you'd have one camera, i.e. the Z30, and another camera, the XT2, being able to do the exact same job as what the H20 series does in one. It incorporates a 12 megapixel wide camera, which with an 82.9 degree field of view. It's got a 20 megapixel zoom camera with the capability of zooming in at 23 times hybrid optical zoom. Its radiometric thermal camera on the H20T is 640 by 512 pixels, and it's also got a laser rangefinder with up to 1200 meter maximum calculation distance. Now, both of these cameras are IP44 rated, meaning that if you're flying in adverse weather conditions, the drone and the payload will still be able to cope. Both cameras can be operated in between -20 to +50 degrees operating temperature, as well as have active image stabilization and EIS. The 20 megapixel zoom camera is a 1.17 inch CMOS sensor, and it can record video resolution at 4K 30 frames per second. The wide camera is a 24mm equivalent focal length with a 12 megapixel camera and a 1 2/3 CMOS sensor. The laser rangefinder can measure a distance from 3 meters up to 1200 meters. And the radiometric thermal camera is a 13.5mm or 40.6 degree field of view, 640 by 512, 30 frames per second, 30 Hz refresh rate. The Enterprise Smart Controller takes roughly 2 hours and 15 minutes to be fully charged. By mounting the WB-37 Intelligent Flight Battery onto the back of the remote, this will increase the operating time by an extra 2 hours. The dongle and SIM card enable the smart controller to access 4G network. To use this correctly, ensure that your network access is available and that the dongle and SIM card are inserted correctly. To check the battery level on the remote, press the power button once when it's turned off. To turn the remote on, press the power button once, and then press again and hold for a few seconds until the smart controller indicates the 4 bars and starts up. Adjusting the antennas. Lift the antennas and adjust them. The strength of the smart controller signal is affected by the position of the antennas. When the angle between the antennas and the back of the smart controller is 80 degrees or 180 degrees, the connection between the smart controller and aircraft can reach its optimal performance. If this is the first time you're setting up the smart controller with the aircraft and it's previously been delinked, tap the linking button on the smart controller by pressing down C1, C2, and the record button simultaneously. The status LED will blink blue and the smart controller will sound a double beep to indicate that the linking has started. Now go over to the aircraft and hold the aircraft's power button for at least 5 seconds. This will allow the aircraft and the smart controller to link successfully. The maximum transmission distance of the smart controller with the M300 is up to 15 kilometers. This, of course, is in unobstructed, free of interference terrain. Flight modes. There's 4 modes on the M300: P mode, S mode, tripod mode, and attitude mode, although only 3 will be available at one point in time. P mode works best when the GNSS signal is strong. The aircraft utilizes the GNSS module vision systems to locate itself. Sports mode uses the GNSS for positioning. Aircraft responses are optimized for agility and speed, making it more responsive to stick movements. As obstacle avoidance functions are disabled, the aircraft will not be able to sense and avoid objects when in sports mode. Only the vision positioning functions are available. T mode or tripod mode is based on P mode, and the flight speed is limited, which makes the aircraft more stable during shooting. In attitude mode, the vision system and some advanced features are disabled. Therefore, the aircraft cannot position or auto-brake in this mode, and it's easily affected by its surroundings, which may result in horizontal shifting. Use the remote controller to position the aircraft when in attitude mode. Flight status indicator. The aircraft features front LEDs and aircraft status indicators. When the aircraft starts up, red, green, and yellow flashes occur. This is a turning on and self-diagnostic test. Slow green flashing. This is basically the mode that you'll always want, P mode with the GNSS positioning. Slow yellow flashing indicates A mode or attitude mode, no GPS and no vision positioning. Fast green flashing will indicate that the braking is automatically occurred due to an obstacle being detected. Fast yellow flashing means remote controller signal lost. Slow red flashing, low battery warning. Fast red flashing, critically low battery warning. There are a number of other indicators like IMU error, critical error, compass calibration required, and these will be found in the manual of the M300. The aircraft also has beacons on top and below. Do not directly look at the beacons when they're used to avoid eye damage. The aircraft also has auxiliary lights located on both the top and bottom of the aircraft to improve visibility for the vision system in poor lighting conditions. These can be used both inside and outside. Although the Matrice 300 RTK uses vision systems located in 360 degrees of the aircraft still has blind spots. The detection range of the infrared sensing system is 8 meters. Therefore, the aircraft cannot sense and avoid obstacles that are not within that detection range. The vision system enables precision hovering indoors or environments where GNSS signal isn't available. When the GNSS signal is available, the vision system provides auxiliary information for improving aircraft positioning accuracy. The vision system can work well when within 30 meters from the ground and 20 meters of horizontal, wall, or other objects, requiring surfaces of clear patterns and adequate lighting. When the vision system and infrared system are disabled, the flight mode will switch to attitude mode. The Matrice 300 also has assisted braking from obstacle sensing. Please ensure that the aircraft is flying at no more than 62 kilometers per hour with a maximum pitch angle of 25 degrees to allow for sufficient braking. When using the infrared sensing system to avoid large and reflective obstacles, please be mindful of blind spots. The return to home feature brings the aircraft back to the last recorded home point when there is a strong GNSS signal. There are 3 types: smart return to home, low battery return to home, and fail-safe return to home. The home point. If a strong GNSS signal was acquired before takeoff, the home point is the location from which the aircraft launched. The GNSS signal strength is indicated by the GNSS icon, which looks like a satellite at the top of the screen. Less than 4 bars is considered a weak GNSS signal. The aircraft status indicator will blink rapidly when the home point is recorded. When using the return to home feature, the aircraft can sense and avoid obstacles when the forward vision sensor is enabled and lighting conditions are sufficient. To ensure the aircraft returns home while facing forward, it cannot rotate or fly left and right during return to home. Smart return to home. Use the return to home button on this remote controller and follow the on-screen instructions when GNSS is available to initiate smart return to home. The aircraft will then automatically return to the last recorded home point. Use the remote controller to control the aircraft's speed, the pitch stick, or altitude, throttle stick, to avoid a collision during the smart return to home process. Press and hold the smart return to home button once to start the process, and press the smart return to home button again to terminate the procedure and regain full control of the aircraft. Low battery return to home. The low battery level failsafe is triggered when the DJI Intelligent Flight Battery is depleted to a point that may affect the safe return of the aircraft. Users are advised to return home or land the aircraft immediately when prompted. The DJI Pilot app will display notice when a low battery warning is triggered. The aircraft will automatically return to the home point if no action is taken after a 10-second countdown. The user can cancel the return to home procedure by pressing the return to home button on the remote controller. The thresholds for these warnings are automatically determined based on the aircraft's current altitude and distance from the home point. If the return to home procedure is cancelled following a low battery level warning, the Intelligent Flight Battery may not have enough charge for the aircraft to land safely, which may lead to the aircraft crashing or being lost. Low battery RTH can be turned off in the DJI Pilot app. Fail-safe return to home, which is enabled automatically in the app, is activated if the remote controller and the aircraft are disconnected. Fail-safe RTH includes 2 stages of return to home: the historical flight path and smart return to home. When fail-safe RTH is enabled, the aircraft will return home based on its historical flight path. Within a maximum distance of 50 meters, the aircraft will try to reconnect to the remote controller. If the aircraft cannot reconnect to the remote controller within 50 meters, or the aircraft detects obstacles in front of it en route to its return to home flight path, the aircraft will exit the stage of the return to home based on its historical path and enter the smart return to home stage. When the remote controller is reconnected to the aircraft during the return to home, users can use the remote controller to control the aircraft's flight speed and altitude, or cancel the return to home by pressing the return to home button on the remote controller. The return to home procedure. The home point is automatically recorded. Return to home procedure is triggered: smart return to home, low battery, or failsafe. Home point is confirmed and the aircraft adjusts its orientation. The aircraft will ascend to the preset return to home altitude and then fly to the home point when the aircraft's ground distance is further than 20 meters from the home point, or the flight height is larger than 30 meters. When the above conditions are not met, the aircraft will directly land after RTH is triggered. The aircraft will return to the home point and landing protection will be triggered to allow the aircraft to land or hover in place. A couple of things to notice about the fail-safe safety notices. The aircraft cannot avoid obstacles during fail-safe return to home when the forward vision system is disabled. Therefore, it's important to set a suitable fail-safe altitude before each flight. Launch the DJI Pilot app, enter the camera, and tap the droning icon to set the fail-safe altitude. If the aircraft is flying under 20 meters and fail-safe is triggered, the aircraft will first automatically ascend to 20 meters from the current altitude. You can only cancel the ascending by exiting the fail-safe. The aircraft automatically descends and lands if return to home is triggered when the aircraft flies within a 20-meter radius of the home point and the aircraft height is less than 30 meters. The aircraft will stop ascending and immediately return to the home point if you move the left stick when the failsafe is flying at an altitude of 20 meters or higher and failsafe is triggered. The aircraft cannot return to the home point when GPS is weak, displaying 3 or less bars, so ensure that you've met these requirements before taking off. Obstacle avoidance during return to home. The aircraft can sense and actively attempt to avoid obstacles during return to home, provided the lighting conditions are adequate for the forward vision system. Upon detecting an obstacle, the aircraft will act as follows. The aircraft decelerates when an obstacle is sensed at approximately 20 meters ahead. The aircraft stops and hovers, then ascends vertically to avoid the obstacle. Eventually, the aircraft will stop climbing when it's approximately 5 meters above the detected obstacle. The return to home procedure will then resume. The aircraft will continue flying to the home point at the current altitude. The landing protection function. This will activate automatically during auto land. Landing protection determines whether the ground is suitable for landing. If so, the aircraft will land smoothly. If landing protection determines that the ground is not suitable for landing, the aircraft will hover and wait for pilot confirmation. The aircraft will hover if it detects the ground is not appropriate for landing, even with a critically low battery warning. Only when the battery level decreases to 0% will the aircraft land. Users retain control of aircraft flight orientation. If landing protection is inactive, the DJI Pilot will display a landing prompt when the aircraft descends below 0.7 meters. Tap to confirm or pull down the control stick for 2 seconds to land when the environment is appropriate for landing. The TB60 intelligent flight batteries will take approximately 60 minutes to fully charge with the TB60 battery station, or 30 minutes from 20 to 90% battery level. The battery station will only charge the two batteries with the most amount of remaining battery power first. For example, if there are 4 TB60 batteries plugged into the battery station, the first two batteries have 10% remaining power, and the second two batteries have 30%, the battery station will automatically charge the batteries with the 30% or highest remaining battery power. The WB37 batteries will charge the battery with the highest remaining battery power also first. When the temperature of the battery is too low, it will warm up automatically before charging and then resume. When transporting the TB60 batteries, it's also important to ensure that the range of charge is between 20 and 30%. The battery has a capacity of 274 watt-hours, so please ensure that you follow regulations and guidelines for traveling with these batteries via air. When the temperature falls between -20 to 5 degrees, the battery station will warm up the battery prior to charging it. It's recommended not to charge the battery frequently in low temperature environments, as the charging time becomes longer and the battery life may be shorter. If not going to use the batteries for a period of 10 days or more, it's best to charge or discharge the battery to between 40 and 60%. It takes approximately 6 days to discharge the battery to 60% if fully charged. Also, it's normal to feel moderate heat emitting from the battery during this discharge process. Another good thing to do is to ensure that the batteries are kept as pairs. It's recommended to mark 2 batteries as a pair and continue using them as a pair to maximize service life and ensure flight performance. If 2 batteries with a significant difference in battery life are installed and powered on, a prompt will pop up in the app to recommend that you replace the batteries to a pair with similar performances. DJI Air Sense. Airplanes and helicopters with an ADS-B transceiver will actively broadcast flight information including location, flight speed, flight path, and altitude. DJI Air Sense receives this ADS-B transceiver via an onboard receiver or internet connection. UAVs installed DJI Air Sense can obtain the position, orientation, and velocity information from the manned aeroplane built into the ADS-B transmitter. They can calculate the collision risk level in real time and send the warning to the user. The system will analyze the potential risk of collision by comparing the location of an airplane or a helicopter, sending timely warnings to pilots via the DJI app. DJI Air Sense provides users with information about nearby airplanes and helicopters to ensure flight safety. The system doesn't actively control the drone to avoid incoming airplanes or helicopters, but always allow your aircraft within a visual line of sight and be cautious at times. Lower your altitude when you receive warnings, and please be aware that DJI Air Sense has the following limitations. It can only receive messages sent by airplanes and helicopters installed with an ADS-B out device. If there is an obstacle or seal structure between airplanes or helicopters and the DJI aircraft, the system won't be able to receive the ADS-B messages. Warnings may be sent with delay when the DJI Air Sense is interfered by the surroundings. Ensure you observe your surrounding areas and fly with caution. If the DJI aircraft is unable to determine its location, warnings won't be sent. ADS-B messages sent by airplanes or helicopters or send out warnings when disabled or misconfigured won't be received either. The M300 RTK supports advanced dual operator mode, which allows 2 remote controllers to connect to the same aircraft. In this mode, two remote controllers are of the same priority and have no pre-assigned roles. During operation, two pilots take control based on their requirements and decide which onboard device, such as aircraft, gimbal, and camera, can be operated currently, making it more flexible to operate. There are two types of control, including aircraft flight control and gimbal control. For the remote controller with the aircraft flight control, it can control the orientation of the aircraft. For the remote controller with the gimbal control, it can control the movement of the gimbal and camera operation. The M300 RTK supports multiple payload configurations. It supports the XTS, the XT2, the Z30, H20, H20T, and third-party PSDK payloads. Please note that when the XT2 is mounted, it's only on the first gimbal port. It doesn't support upwards gimbal or second gimbal port. When you first open the DJI Pilot app, you have manual flight or mission flight, as well as the album to see previously taken photos and the HMS, the health management system. In here, you'll see whether the aircraft is all up to date, as well as the battery firmware, the camera gimbal firmware, and whether all sensors, vision, infrared, are working. Once you enter the camera view, you have the DJI logo at the top left, which is your back and return to the main menu button. Your system status bar, this indicates aircraft flight status and displays various warning messages. Your battery level indicator at the top. The battery level indicator provides a dynamic display of the battery level. The colored zones on the battery level indicator represent the power levels needed to carry out different functions. The drone icon is the flight mode. The text next to the icon indicates the current flight mode. Tap to configure the flight controller settings. These settings allow you to modify flight limits and set gain values. Next to that, you've got the GNSS signal strength. This shows the current GNSS signal strength, and R will be displayed on the lower right corner if the aircraft RTK is enabled. Obstacle sensing function status. This displays the status for all sensing systems. If the direction of the corresponding sensing system is working normally, then it is displayed in green. Otherwise, it is displayed in red. All green indicates that the 6th direction sensing system is working normally, and all red indicates that the sensing system is not yet in effect. Next to that icon, you've got the remote controller signal. This icon shows the strength of the remote controller signal. The icon will blink when an interference is recognized during the flight. There are no additional warnings in DJI Pilot. It means that the interference will not affect operation and overall flight experience. When in advanced dual operator mode, this icon will show the same, but with the G above the signal. HD video link signal strength. This icon shows the strength of the HD video link connection between the aircraft and the remote controller. The text on top indicates the frequency in use. Tap for image transmission settings. To your right of that, the battery settings. These show the current battery level. Tap to view the battery information menu, set the various battery warning thresholds, and view the battery warning history. Next to that, at the top right, is the 3 dots. Tap this to extend the extended menu to view and adjust the parameters of all other settings. You have flight controller settings, which includes your flight mode switch, home point settings, return to home altitude, maximum distance, distance limit, sensor state, remote controller signal, lost action, and center of gravity auto calibration. Perception settings includes enabling obstacle avoidance sensing, vision positioning, and return to home obstacle detection. Remote controller settings include stick mode, custom mode, remote controller calibration linking, Image transmission settings includes work frequency, channel mode, and video output. Aircraft battery settings includes low battery warning thresholds and battery information. Gimbal settings includes gimbal pitch and pan settings, tap zoom magnification for the Z30 gimbal and camera, and gimbal calibration. RTK settings includes RTK positioning, RTK service type, and the corresponding settings. Tap the common settings at the bottom, which includes flight route display, unit of measurements, and live stream. Now in the camera view, you've got the message box, and you can tap to read all warning messages. Next to that, you've got the gimbal orientation adjustment. Tap to select the gimbal orientation adjustment as gimbal recenter, recenter gimbal, gimbal yaw downward, or gimbal downward. Beacon. Tap to turn on and off the beacons. This will change to discrete mode icon once turned on. Multiple gimbal control. Tap to enable multiple gimbal control. You can also control 2 or 3 gimbals pitch and yaw. Smart Track. This enables the Smart Track function. The Smart Track function will automatically detect boats, cars, trucks, motorcyclists, and people, and allow you to tap on the object for the camera to zoom into. Whilst this is enabled, the target will be in the center of the screen without any user input. The user can switch between the wide camera and the zoom camera while still maintaining eyes on the target. Next to this icon is the pinpoint function. Simply tap on an object and press the pinpoint function, and then if you continue flying, the aircraft will automatically know where the pinpoint was recorded, and when tapped again, the camera will automatically point to that area. The laser rangefinder icon next to that will measure distances from 3 to 1200 meters and include the lat and long and distance from the aircraft. AI Spot Check. When pairing the M300 RTK with the H20 series payload, AI Spot Check is available. In AI Spot Check page, you can switch from different photos, drag select photos, and adjust the size. When the route is executed, the selected object will be accurately photographed. When recording a mission waypoint, fly the aircraft to the position you want the first photo to be taken, zoom in up to 10 times optical zoom, and then press the capture photo. Ensure that no video recording is being done at this time, otherwise the waypoint photos won't be saved. Now fly the aircraft to the next position and zoom in once again. The aircraft will hold its position, and as you select your target and capture the photo, this will now be the second waypoint. Continue this as many times as you need, and then once done, return the aircraft back to home and land. Once in the app, select and drag over the image that you want to select for the next mission. Rotate the box around the object that you want, and then press save and move on to the next photo. Once all images have been saved and the target's captured, upload the image and mission flight to the aircraft. The DJI Pilot app will automate how long this is going to take and give you how many batteries will be needed. Well, thank you for attending this video that we've made, and hopefully it's summed up some of the questions you may have. But if you do have any specific questions that you'd like me to answer, please feel free to send me a message, or I'm actually live here now, so more than happy to speak with you or chat with you in the future. Thanks once again. I'm Tim from the D1Store, and this has been the M300 RTK webinar presentation.
Hey guys, how are we all? Hopefully you can hear me now. If you have any specific questions, I know we've got one from Warwick Shepherd and Julian Elvisanana. So I'll try and answer those questions. But if you want to unmute yourself, I'll just type in there and I'll unmute you. We can speak face to face. So Warwick's question was, what is the normal weight of the DJI Matrice 300 RTK without extra sensors added? And that is 6.3 kilos. So once you put the H20 on, the drone will weigh about 6.9 kilos, so just below 7. And once you put the H20T on, you're about 7.12 kilograms. If you do want to ask any questions, you can actually unmute yourself now so we can take questions. Thanks, Julian. In regards to controlling it using an external onboard computer, I'm not sure of the answer now, but I will find out for you and get back to you. Hopefully you can still hear me, but so this is a shot that we took with the H20T the other day. This is not how it actually comes up in the browser when you're on the DJI Pilot app. It shows the wide angle screen, but this is one that we put into Photoshop and automatically put together as a HDR merge. As you'll be able to see here, you've pretty much got Zoom for days all over the city of Melbourne. Any other questions that you guys had at all that I can help with? So this video here is just a live demonstration of the AI spot check, where I flew around my property up in Bendigo just to see how precise it was. And then I moved out to some power lines just to see whether it really would capture what we initially took on the first flight. So this has actually all been done by the drone. I had no input. It's just literally pressing invoke on the controller, and then you can either watch it through wide, thermal, or the zoom lens as to what you want to see. So when you're using this mode on the M300, all you need to do is literally select a photo, take the photo, press the capture button on the remote, and then if you move to another place to get a different angle of the power line or whatever asset you're inspecting, the drone will automatically record that position and avoid obstacles whilst going to capture the next shot. I'm just going to check on another quick video of the power lines. I did an inspection of 5 or 6 different power lines in a row, just to show you the different angles. So if I just pull that up quickly. So pretty much after the first time you've done one mission, you'll just go back into the app, select what you're actually intending to take a photo of, put a green square around it, and then so you do that for the first time, and then the drone's automatically going to do that every time from then on. The mistake that I made here was that I put it above 10 times optical zoom, so it does actually miss it just slightly. Alrighty, guys, I think I'll end it there. Thank you very much for joining, and hopefully we'll see you next year at the World of Drones Congress. Cheers, guys.